Welcome into Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports. As promised, it is time to pay more attention to the 2024 NFL Draft. I would argue, whether you actively do it or just do it because you're not that talented and good enough without Joe Burrow, it's time for the Bengals to embrace the tank. I'm not saying you throw games on purpose, but the reality is the Bengals' playoff chances are basically zero. 3%. When you factor in the strength of schedule, remaining games, your deficit, your tiebreakers, etc. With Jake Browning in at quarterback, it's clear they just aren't good enough when they already would have had a tough time making the playoffs with Joe Burrow after a rough start to the season. So I think it is time to focus on the 2024 campaign and try, as best as reasonably possible, to get the best draft pick. So do you think it's time to embrace the tank, knowing teams can't quite just turn it off and on, the competitiveness like that? But should the Bengals begin to tank? Why for yes and for no? Sound off in the comments section. Now, the current NFL draft order sits like this. Panthers at 1, Cardinals at 2, Patriots 3, Bears, Commanders, Giants, both at 4 and 8, are 4, 5, 6, etc. from that perspective. The Bengals, as we sit right now, 5 and 6. They have the number 15 pick. You're probably not going to be able to catch Carolina, Arizona, or New England in the survive to suck standpoint. It's just not going to be doable. But top 10, fringe top 5, you're a game back. That's actually very doable for Cincinnati. Now, before we break down some of the top draft targets, do make note, I'm taking the quarterbacks off the board here. Drake May, Caleb Williams will probably end up being top 3 picks anyway, and you're not going to take a quarterback when you have Joe Burrow coming back next season and healthy from that perspective. So it just doesn't make any sense for the Bengals to look at a quarterback route. So instead, we'll focus on the other top prospects in this year's class, and there's 2 names at the front that I think many of you would enjoy being able to acquire. First up is Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., the son of Colts wide receiver Marvin Harrison Sr., He's awesome. I'll let you guys in on background from like my draft scouting process. I don't really get going like the nitty gritty stuff, like the full on major film evals until later in the season. Around this time, I kind of start to really dive in. But I still watch a bunch of games, and it doesn't take a draft scout to go, yeah, Marvin Harrison's awesome at football. Like we all know that. He'll be my number 1 ranked player this year over the quarterbacks. Now, I think you have to get a top 3 pick to get him. So I don't anticipate Marvin Harrison ending up in Cincinnati, unfortunately. Who do you want the Bengals to draft? Sound off in the comment section for me at the pinned comment of today's video. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Next up is tight end Brock Bowers. And I would encourage you to not think of him as just a tight end. You know, don't think of him as, oh no, we just drafted Tyler Eifert, whatever. Think of this as the second best playmaking skill guy in a class that is loaded at wide receiver. Remember, he had 942 yards last season. He had 882 yards in 2021. His numbers, quote unquote, are at a career low. And he's been awesome this season because he missed some time with injury. He also, by the way, has 193 rushing yards and 5 scores because he's the rare tight end that can take jet sweeps and go to the house. He's an okay blocker. But an offense that could feature Jamar Chase and Brock Bowers, with Bowers torching over the middle of the field, that is a deadly dynamic offense. And there's a real chance that Bowers will be top 5 on most teams' boards. Next up, how about some offensive linemen? Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. I thought he was going to go pro last year. I loved what I saw from him. I think he's been a little bit worse this season, but not by much. I will make note that of his 11 hurries allowed this season, 6 of them came against Ohio State. So 1 not great game. The run blocking grade was okay. He's a left tackle. He's athletic. He's very young still, by the way. He should be a top 5, top 6 prospect. I think most people's boards in some order are going to go with the 2 quarterbacks, May, Williams, Harrison, Bowers, Fashanu, and then I think Joe Alt, the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, who I think has taken a big step forward, and you've got kind of 1A, 1B along the offensive line here. He was awesome. 1 sack, 2 hits, 2 hurries. Now, the traits might favor Fashanu a little bit, but I don't think Alt's a bad athlete either. You're probably not going to keep Jonah Williams. Guys, he's probably going to get like $15 million on the open market. I know that doesn't make any sense to you, but Mike Williams got a ton of money. He's a starting caliber offensive lineman, low end. Teams are desperate for that. The Panthers would kill for him right now. The Commanders, the Giants would love to have Jonah Williams. It's just how it goes in the NFL when there's bad offensive line play. So you're probably not going to retain Jonah Williams. I would have no issues taking Fashanu, Alton, maybe drafting a left guard in round 2 as well. Some more prospects to come, but today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. I love the flex play in particular with it. I just pick 2 to 6 player stat projections, more than, less than. If I get 2 out of 3 right or 3 out of 4 right, I come out on top. I don't have to get every single one right because I'm really good about getting 2 out of 3 right. I've gotten, of my 3 of 3, I've gone like 2 for 7 or 2 for 8. On the 2 of 3, I've gone 7 for 8. Flex play for the win, baby. Here are my picks this week. Give me more than Justin Herbert passing yards, more than George Kittle receiving yards, and at any time, David Montgomery rushing touchdown. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Now, after those big 4 prospects, that's why I want to get that top 6 pick, because I think those guys are going to be gone early. I've got a bit of a tier break. Wouldn't be shocked if somebody emerged. There's a bunch of good players here, but I don't think they're as premier prospects as the playmakers and the offensive line. Maybe the tight end slides because of positional value. Next up, let's talk 3 receivers here. We'll go one by one here and then look at them more in depth. Keon Coleman, who's a monstrous contested catch playmaking machine from FSU. Rome Odunze, who also kind of fits an ex-receiver mold. These guys would be great replacements for T. Higgins. Premium investment, but they're awesome playmakers. And Malik Neighbors, you just want to keep that LSU train going. Get another Bayou Bengal up north to Cincinnati. All 3 of these guys have totally viable arguments to be the potential wide receiver 3 in this year's class. Wide receiver 2 in this year's class if we put Brock Bowers at tight end. Here are the numbers for Coleman, Odunze, and Neighbors. Now, Coleman's numbers aren't as impressive. Also, that's kind of the offense at Florida State. They weren't nearly as air raidy, for lack of a better word, as Washington and LSU was. All 3 guys are awesome talents. I will not argue if you've got Coleman or Odunze or Neighbors at number 2 among receivers. It's kind of ice cream flavors. It's all good, except for mint. Mint is not an ice cream flavor. It is a toothpaste flavor. I digress. You pick one of them, you're adding a playmaker in a major way to your offense. So would you draft a wide receiver in round 1? This all assumes you don't retain T. Higgins. Maybe get a second-round pick trade? Late first? Possible. 1 for yes, 0 for no. Sound off in the comment section. Some non-receivers now. 2 edge rushers I want to make note of. Dallas Turner is not going to be for everyone. He's not the biggest guy. I think he holds up really well in run support anyway. Liatu Latu out of UCLA. Medical's a huge thing here. He has been awesome for UCLA. Pass rush always at a premium. You did just draft Myles Murphy. You always need more of those guys. Hendrickson cannot play forever. You can throw in maybe a Jerzon Newton from Illinois here at defensive tackle, but few players have been as disruptive this season as Latu has been for UCLA. 13 sacks, 21 and a half TFLs. There's one of him getting triple teamed against USC, iffy offensive line. Blew it up, got the sack anyway, or at least got the pressure. He has been awesome. Medical's got to be cleared. Turner's not that big. In general, I don't love the defensive class. You will see big boards out there that have maybe 1 or 2 guys among the defensive side of the ball in the top 10. Could be a Cooper DeJean, the cornerback from Iowa, Kool-Aid McKinstry. It's just not a loaded class on defense. Now, for more Bengals news, rumors, draft updates, free agency, and more, you have certainly come to the right place. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/BengalsTV for more free Bengals YouTube videos. Do not miss out. Make sure you have all the latest and greatest information at your fingertips right here on Bengals Breakdown. It is free, by the way, to subscribe. One more draft target to consider is J.C. Latham. If you want to go from one Alabama tackle to the other, Latham stands out. I think he's a notch below Joe Alt. And Olu Fashanu might be a notch ahead of guys like Amarius Mims and a bunch of other good, top 30, top 40-ish offensive line prospects. Patrick Paul just turned pro, could be a kind of early round 2 option or maybe late round 1 option. Latham's been solid for Alabama this year. He's a huge guy. And if you want to embrace, I still think the Bengals have done kind of a weird job up front on their offensive line. Like, they tend to draft some more power blockers. I'd rather they embrace some more zone stuff, more athletic guys. But Latham fits the Orlando Brown mold of being a hulking monstrosity. Great run blocker, did not get beat very much in pass protection this season. I like what he brings. Not a top 5 pick, but if you're in that fringe top 10 range, could make sense for Cincinnati. So what is the Bengals' biggest draft need? Maybe it's just offensive line. Maybe it's receiver. Maybe it's a defensive piece. Sound off for me in the comment section right now.